Dear students, myself Dr. Shaiki Pratima, Ahmednagar Jilla Maratha Vidya Prasarak Samaj's New Arts, Commerce and Science College, Ahmednagar. Supply analysis. This is the fourth chapter as per your board 12th standard syllabus. So the unit is like the law of supply. This law will explain the relationship between the price of that commodity and the quantity supplied. Basically, it's a direct relationship. Means what is the statement of the law of supply? Other things being equal, higher the price of the commodity, higher the quantity supplied, and lower the price of the quantity, lesser the quantity supplied. Means that statement will explain it's a functional relationship, but it's a direct relationship. So in the last video, we never completed throughout this law, means the law of supply, because on that law, the graphical representation statement, then introduction, then graphical representation will be there, then the schedule. And most important is like the assumptions of the law of supply. So that's why in this video, we have discussed the last point in the law of supply, like the exceptions to the law of supply. The exceptions means what? This situation is not applicable for this law. So that is called as the exceptions. Means some points it's not supportable, some situation is not support for that law of supply, that is called as the exceptions. So the first exception is like the supply of labor. See now, labor means what? It's a man-made factor. It's include to the man, otherwise that laborer. We never separate labor as a laborer. So the supply of labor is the total number of hours that workers to work at a given wage rate. Means we have considered the working hours, then the wage rate. Okay, the difference between these two parts. Okay, it is represent the first of all, the most important part is like the supply curve. In case of labor, as the wage rate rises, the supply of labor would increase. So supply curve slopes is upward. See now, in the first stage, if the working hour is increased at the same time, the wage rate is increases, so that time the supply curve is always left right upward. So supply curve slopes upward and the supply of labor falls with a further rise in wage rate, and supply curve of labor bends backward. Why? Because you know the at a one stage means the wage rate is increases at a first time, so that time the working hour is increases, then second time wage rate is also increases, so the working hour is also increased, but at a one stage the laborer will accept the rest. So that's why the supply curve slope is upward at a one stage, but after a few time the wage rate rise, but the supply curve of labor bends backward. This is because the worker would prefer leisure to work after receiving higher amount of wages. So the after a certain point, when wage rate rises, the supply of labor tends to fall. So this is the backward situation. Means the supply curve of labor bends the backward. Why? Because at one stage, the laborer cannot provide our working hours, otherwise they never spend the working hours, and they first of all they have received the higher wage rate, then they have accept the raise. So that's why the supply curve is backward bending. So let's we discuss the schedule, the labor supply schedule. So it can be explained with the help of the backward bending supply curve and also the the labor supply schedule. In your screen, I have just shared the one of the most important schedule, like the labor supply schedule. So the first column is wage rate in rupees per hour, then hours of work per day, hours of work per day, then the total amount of wages in rupees. So the first wage rate per hour, see, I'm talking about per hour wage rate in rupees, 100 rupees per hour. So that time workers have spent the 5 hours. So hours of works is like the 5. So the total amount of wage rate is like the 500, means 1 hour, if it is the rate is the 100 rupees. So 5 hours if he spend or the labor So that time the total amount of wages is 500. Then next stage, the wage rate is increases like a per hour 200 rupees. So the hours of works per day, it's also increases because workers will accept the highest wage rate. So the hours of work per day is like the 7. So the total amount of wages is like the 400 means 1,400 rupees, 1,400 rupees. Then next stage also the wage rate is increases per hour. It's like the per hour 300 rupees. So that time he has to spend the 6 hours only. It's a less. Okay, 6 hours only. And the total amount of wages is like the 1,800. So that wage is the increases, means the first is 500, second is 1,400, and third is the 1,800. So it's increasing. But at a one stage, the laborer cannot provide our labor because he has to accept the rest because he is tired. So that time in the first stage, the supply curve is left to right upward, and second stage it's also upward, but the third stage it's a backward bending. So we just discussed the graphical representation. See now, in the I have shared the labor supply curve. See the labor supply curve. First step, the SAS1. It is the SAS1. It is the backward bending labor supply curve. See the S to A, it's a left, right, upward. First of all, I have discussed the one of the most important point is like the OX axis measures the supply of labor, hours of work. Then OY axis measure the wage rate per hour in rupees. Okay. So the SAS1, it's like the backward bending supply curve. Okay. Then the supply of labor, hours of the work is shown as the OX axis. But when the I have discussed that the one of the most important also point, this curve is a backward bending. When initially when the wage rate is rupees 100 per hour, the hour of work is 5 and the total amount of wage received in rupees 500. So this is explained in the left to right upward stage. Then at a one stage, the laborer cannot provide the extra labor. So the laborer will prefer leisure time and denies to the work for extra hour. He is ready to work only for 6 hours. So at the point A, the supply curve bends backward, which becomes and the exceptions to the law of supply. So this situation is not accordable to this law, the law of supply. So that's why it's an exceptional case. So this point is most important to the the board exam, because every time board has include that part, they explain the supply of labor, otherwise explain the concept of labor of supply, and otherwise they have used that part why the supply curve is backward bending. The labor supply curve is backward bending. So this question is also most important to as per your the board exam. So let's come to the second exceptions to the law of supply, and second exception is like the agricultural goods. You know the agricultural good, it's not the perfect part. It's depend to the season, otherwise it's depend to the climatic condition. So the law of supply does not apply to agricultural goods as they are produced in the specific season, and there the production depends on the weather conditions. So due to the unfavorable changes in weather, if the agricultural production is low, so their supply cannot be increased. See now, this is not supportable to the law of supply, because the law will explain that the higher the price of the commodity, higher the supply of quantity. Means we have increased that supply because price is high. But this situation is not supportable to the agricultural sector. It's not accordable. So that's why this is the exceptions to the law of supply. So due to unfavorable changes in weather, if the agricultural products is low, so their supply cannot be increased even at a higher price. So this is the exception. The next exception is the urgent need for cash. See now, if we have to face the any problem, like the family problem, otherwise the any the personal reason, so that time we need the cash. So if the seller is in urgent need for hard cash, so he may sell his the product at which may even be below the market price. Means if the producer will face the any crisis related to his firms, otherwise the production, otherwise the industries, otherwise the seller will face the any crisis, so that time the seller is the purchased, otherwise the those commodity will available for the sale at any price. So that time the urgent cash is important, means he is needed for that cash. So that is the exceptions to the law of supply. The next exception is the perishable good. What is the meaning of the perishable goods? Whenever they store those goods in an extra time. So in case of perishable goods, the supplier would offer a sale more quantity at lower price to avoid the losses, because we know these are the different goods. First is the perishable and second is the durable good. The perishable good we never store the extra time, and the durable goods we have stored at a long period of time. So that is the difference between these two commodities. So what's the main point? If the price is false, but we never the stored extra time, that perishable goods, so that's why seller will available those commodity for the sale at a lower price. So that's why this part is not the applicable to the law of supply. Then next, the last, the exception is like the rare goods. Rare goods means what? It's a rare articles. So the supply of rare goods cannot be increased or decreased according to its demand. Even if the price rises, supply remains unchanged. For example, the rare painting, then old coins, then antique goods, whenever increases, because they are a rare article, they are a rare goods. It's not available anywhere, anytime, and anything. So that's why those goods is a limited. So we never increase the supply at a higher price, and we never decrease the supply at a lower price. So that's why it's an exceptional case. So these are the 5 exceptional cases. Students, please, I repeat again that part. The first and the most important exception is like the supply of labor. I think you have to understood the total law of supply. So this law is most important as per your board exam, because this law is the third law as per the microeconomic subject. Okay, the first is the DMU, means the diminishing marginal utility. Then second law is the law of demand, and this is the third law, like the law of supply. So every law related to the microeconomics, it's most important. So please, I will request to all students, so please they properly they understood that part, and they collect the other notes related to that topic. So goodbye everybody.